Thank you, my dear conference and lay mission partners. I have the honor to present to you Father Peter Gonsalves, that you see now on screen. He is from Mumbai, India, born in a family that experienced many political, economic, social, and cultural changes through the centuries. He has a master's diploma in philosophy from Pune, journalism and communication, Symbiosis Pune, and media education from the British Film Institute of London. He has completed his PhD in communication at the Salesiana Università Pontificia Salesiana in Rome, and there he has taught the history of media and in charge of the doctoral program of now the Faculty of the Sciences of Communication. Before it was an institute, now it's a facultà, where he has served as the dean between 2015 and 2018. He is a consultant to the Vatican Secretariat for Communications since 2017 and currently teaches media education and peace communication. His current research interests are exploring the connection, the nexus between peace, communication, education in the educational philosophy of Don Bosco, as well as the development of a communication theology based on the investigations of Karl Rahner. His interests at the spare time are songwriting, as Michael said. He learned the songs, photography, and watercolor. What a beautiful balancing act you're doing, Peter. So without further ado, we have as our facilitator, resource speaker for our episode today, our 6th episode, Father Peter Gonsalves, SDB. Your floor.
Thank you very, very much. And thank you in a very special way to you, Francis, for having invited me. Thank you to each one of you for being present. Let me already start with the methodology that I am going to use. I will be using a slide program, a simple PowerPoint program. I will put out my text on every page, and I will be reading that page. Why do I do this? Because through my experience here at the OOPS, where we have the whole world coming here to study, it's very important to make sure that everybody understands what is being said in the classroom, okay? Sometimes when we only speak and we give simple points, those points do not help the student to understand completely what is being said. So this is Don Bosco's expressive system, an alternative perspective for a communication age. This is the original title of my article. People right through the years have been reading it, and lots of lovely reactions coming across, both positive and negative, which helps me to improve on what I had first written. So what you're going to see now is we're going to talk very little about the preventive part, but we would need to do that. And we will enter fully into the expressive part that we are talking of. Let's begin with a little exercise, okay? Can you guess the word or the, shall I say, the metaphor behind these words? Antivirus, eating healthy food, curing COVID, God sees me, exercise for a happy death, defend rights, the sacramental confession, guardian angel, impede moral harm, save from drowning, medicine, loving kindness, forestall danger, assistance. The next set is learning a new skill, questioning the media, joy, using your right to vote, theater, celebrating the Eucharist, growing up healthy, learning to dialogue, appreciating nature, moral resilience, sharing time with another, being grateful, God loves me, building immunity. Underlying these words, there is one word or maybe two words. Can anyone, or two or three of you, Put on your mics and just give me the answer. Anyone? So what is the common word that you would have for these?
They could also put it on the chat.
Okay, let's look at that then. Yeah. Just put on your mic and say, okay, someone is saying awareness. Someone says life. Okay, expressions, solid foundation, protection, that's coming close. For the first, okay. Somebody saying for the first, upright citizenship, prevention for the first. Okay. I think you have got it. Basically, we're talking of the preventive system. Okay, most of these, not all of them, are actually words that we use in the preventive system, right? And many of us as Salesians have grown up with this experience that this is all the preventive system, no? But not all these words originate from the meaning of prevention, which is action of anticipating, going before, an act of hindering or rendering impossible by previous measures. For example, in the COVID times that we're experiencing, we have an experience of the preventive system at its highest. So we forestall harm, we take preventive medicine, we use our social distancing, our masks, etc., to enter into society if we want to enter into interaction with others. So you see, it's a prevenire or it's preventive. But at the same time, the third and the fourth column that you've seen, that means the second slide that you've seen, doesn't seem to gel well with the preventive aspect. You have these, therefore, on the left. That is the first and the second column. And you have very positive aspects expressed on the third and the fourth column. Now, for example, when you look at learning a new skill, you can easily say that, yes, it is prevention. Why? Because you're preventing unemployment. So you are teaching a new skill. Or let's say you are celebrating the Eucharist. Why? Because you want God to strengthen you. You want to receive Jesus in communion to strengthen you so that you are able to fight temptation. Okay. Again, there, it looks like it's preventive. But in reality, you could also look at the Eucharist and say it's a thanksgiving. And it is giving me the strength to enter into life fully, more fully. Growing up healthy. So on one side, you have the preventive aspect, that is the growth protecting aspect of the preventive system. On the other side, you have the growth enhancing aspect of the preventive system. Now, we have considered this all under one umbrella, the blue umbrella, the preventive system. I dare to say that we need a special name for this second part, the growth enhancement. You will see gradually why I'm saying this. We cannot carry on using the same word, prevention, for growth enhancement. Historians tell us that Don Bosco did not have a specific name for his educational method. Hearing about this famous educator who did not use violence to keep his street urchins disciplined, people started coming to see this experiment that Don Bosco was having. It was for him a reality, but for them an experiment, because they were struggling to understand how to get out of the repressive form of education. So consequently, there were repeated requests to identify his system. The preventive system was the name of a pedagogical method which was gaining prominence among educators and educational institutions in his time. He was aware of this. It was a new method which was opposed to the prevalent repressive system. So Don Bosco decided to choose this particular title. He joined the new pedagogical movement by calling his method the preventive system, Only in 1877, you can imagine, it's 36 years later, he decides to put it down in writing as a treatise on the preventive system. It is a kind of a point of arrival after all the experience that he had at Valdocco. What made him now get into this type of education? It was born of an urge, a calling, a passion. To realize his dream at the age of 9, to save and transform wayward young people from ferocious beasts to meek lambs. To save souls from danger, both physical, moral, and prevent them from crime and landing up in jails. He had an experience, and a very strong experience with working with young people in jail. He always lamented, why are young people being put in jail? Therefore, he even spoke to the authorities there, say, please do not take them into the prisons, send them to me, send them to my oratory. And we know that he worked and successfully with a few of these boys who were really tough characters. Those who did not change and did not like the atmosphere decided to leave. So the passion continues, therefore, also in the new humanism that he actually is aware of. He's a man of that time when the new humanism of reason and loving kindness was taking hold in education. And above all, he was decidedly non-violent. Why? Because that was the first thing he hears in his dream. Not with blows, but with gentleness and love from the majestic personage, Jesus himself. But what's the originality here? If he's just borrowing a particular preventive system that is in vogue at the particular moment, or is he developing a new style of his own? Don Bosco brought to the understanding of the preventive system a meaning that had a unique quality and a style of his own. This says Brido. You know that Brido is the base on which we understand so much about the preventive system. The way through which he practiced the preventive system at Valdocco shows a creative originality that goes beyond the text of authors who wrote about prevention, Rosmini, etc. His practice surpasses even his own writings about it. When he writes the treatise on the preventive system, he tells you, yes, the principles, but there's much more than what he had written. And what is that much more? His style. And that he does not write about because he doesn't want to put himself forward in the treatise. He wants the principles to be clear. He sought boys in streets and marketplaces and spent time with them to get to know them. He won over the hearts of rough, ill-mannered young people who greeted him with insults. His practice of prevention had a characteristic charm that helped newcomers to the oratory feel instantly at home in his company. Now, this was something that he didn't write about, but we find it beautifully laid out there in the 19 volumes of the biographical memoirs by eyewitnesses. It's not just Lemoyen or Cheria who are writing their stories and their eyewitness accounts, but they have brought together the sharing that has been done by eyewitnesses at the time of Don Bosco. So you have the preventive system. Now, keeping this originality in mind, don't you think that Don Bosco should have accepted also another term to define that positive aspect of his system? Our contemporaries, starting from Mario Cassotti, a great educator in Italy, we see that there were these voices of, let's say, protest, but suggestions for change. He considers the expression preventive system a distortion of the original meaning intended by Don Bosco. Prevention, he thinks, was a normal aspect of child-centered development. Every mother prevents the child from harm. So it is normal. And even Rousseau had accepted the education of prevention for Emil, his hypothetical protege. At a convention in the preventive system held in 1978, a request was put forth for substituting the word preventive, which risked inflicting on the method of Don Bosco a reductive qualification. You have Sebastian Carotemporel saying in very strong words, the title preventive is a misnomer because the educative experience of Don Bosco is an extraordinarily rich and enriching reality. It has been saddled too long with a wrong, negative, inaccurate, and inadequate name, often misunderstood to mean far less than the wider, more elevating reality. Michael Rebota says, the preventive system is neither preventive nor a system. Umberto Fontana says, a need is felt by many Salesians to transcribe the preventive system in current terminology without distorting it. Unfortunately, nothing has been done about this. What were the alternative names proposed? Braido calls it Don Bosco Pedagogical Experience. Carotemporel prefers educative method of Don Bosco or educational method of Don Bosco. Rebota suggests the Salesian way. Why? Because we have to go back to the roots. The root is Francis de Sales. Fontana says pedagogical intuition. Intuition is because Don Bosco and people in his time had intuitions about what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, etc. They didn't have the scientific method of evaluating and doing empirical research, etc. So he therefore says pedagogical intuition of Don Bosco. Now, my search, and you will have to excuse me here because I'm talking about myself and my own experience in this study. I was looking out for an alternative, and therefore I decided to read some of these texts of his contemporaries to find out in what way they were similar or different to Don Bosco's method of education. And I came across Alessandro Teppa, who's hardly known actually in Salesian circles. Now, he identifies in education, and particularly the preventive education that is known and accepted by a few of them, two important aspects. And here is a quotation directly from him. Education has two main tasks or essential roles. One is positive and consists in providing young people with the most effective means for the natural and free development of their faculties. Positive. The other is negative and is called on to help the first. It consists in removing the obstacles which might obstruct or spoil that very development. In short, this is the twofold task of education: to promote what is good, to prevent what is evil. Backing up nature in whatever good point it possesses and correcting whatever may be bad. This twofold task must be carried out either directly with the right use of authority through rules, etc., or indirectly by means of good example on the part of the educator. We have exactly what we are looking for here in this text. And you will be surprised why I've chosen it, because I'm going back a slide. Don Bosco loved this particular publication. He was extremely happy. And he even recommended it to Salesians on different occasions. And this is validated by a historian, Prelazzo. So he's suggesting, Teppa is suggesting promotion. If we ask him, what would you suggest this positive aspect to be? And he suggests promotion. Well, that is his idea. I looked up to find out now, would Don Bosco be happy that we are actually, trying to add on another metaphor to his preventive metaphor? Look at this. To members of the third general chapter in 1883, he expressed his desire to be in the vanguard of progress, thus recommending his Salesians to be innovative and to understand and adapt themselves to the times in which we live. And this is beautiful. He's giving us permission to adapt his method of education to our times. So enthused by his spirit of flexibility, sensitive to the needs of creative fidelity, and aware of my own limits, I ventured to propose a complementary metaphor to the educative method of Don Bosco. One that I had first developed in 1994 in a cartoon book for the busy parent, teacher, and youth leader. I do not know whether you have seen the book, but here it is. Growing with the Young. This was my very first book on the preventive system. It's important to see that this is not a children's book, though many mistook it for that, looking at the cover. Down, I have written there, Don Bosco's art of educating explained in cartoon for the busy teacher, parent, and youth leader. Some parents bought this book at the bookshop and gave it to their children to read. And the children didn't understand a word of what was being written there. Now, driven by a search for answers to the criteria and motivated by my belief in the relevance of Don Bosco's educational uniqueness in our communication age, I propose that we explore metaphors of positive growth, which I encapsulated in the term expression. One way to facilitate this new thinking is by renaming the educational method itself. So I did something very daring. Instead of calling it the preventive system, I straight away wrote the expressive system as the title of that article in 2009. But it can also be called the expressive way, or in the context of Salesian circles, Don Bosco's expressive education. And another way, perhaps, is to combine both Don Bosco's preventive expressive education. This is the page in which I, for the very first time, I boldly mentioned the system of expression, with Don Bosco there having a lovely picnic with all the kids. So my search for an alternative, therefore, has also a history. The word expression, I tried to study the history of this word in the context of education. And I came across three main streams of thought. The first is a type of education that promotes artistic development. It helps the pupil test reality in an environment which encourages him to try out creative forms and to expand his awareness of them. So here you would have art, you would have dance, you would have theater. So that is a word that Ellman and Gross named expressive education. The second meaning of expressive education is more comprehensive and includes the first. It is a type of education that is child-centered, that nurtures the development of the child's potential in a climate of liberty, creativity, encouragement. And this is John Dewey. The third meaning is expressive education, because I'm linking it to self-actualization, which is a concept from Maslow. What are the reasons for my choice, therefore? I have already started with history. I'm also taking into consideration the sound, the beauty of the sound, okay? So that's what phonesthetics is all about. It's a big word there, but it simply means the aesthetics of sound. If Don Bosco abhorred repression, he certainly preferred that which was opposite to it. If he abhorred bad behavior, he certainly approved good behavior. So what is the opposite of repression? Expression. Now, other words were proposed like development, promotion, maturation, actualization, realization. But though they contain the right meaning, some of them, they did not sound right. For a title, I needed to take into consideration phonesthetics as well. I required a twin word that would complete what was lacking in prevention, and therefore I chose expression. Prevention, expression is a perfect match, okay? They fit very well. So I hope you agree here. Okay, let's take the etymology now of expression, and then we take the etymology of education, and you will see the miracles coming up. The etymology of the word expressive provided good reason for the choice. The word expressive comes from a medieval Latin combination, esprimere, that signifies to press out, like clay that takes form under pressure. It is the act of setting forth in words the power of indicating feeling, spirit, attitude, character, as on the face, in the voice, or in artistic execution. You know, when you're reading this particular definition here, you're talking of something that is interior to a person, that reveals itself on the body, on the face, in the voice, in the artistic execution. Keep that in mind. Moreover, it is a word that complements prevention. Prevention is an act that is usually exerted by the educator on the student, that is, from outside the subject. Expression, instead, is an act that emerges from within the subject. For example, Don Bosco started his oratory to create the conditions for migrant young people to be safe from vice, misery, and jails. This is the preventive move that he has taken. But once they are inside, it was up to them to make the best use of all the opportunities for growth that he provided them with. You can take a duck to the water, but you can't force it to drink, the famous expression. So here you have a combination of the gardener preparing the ground, putting the seed in it, watering the seed, but the seed has to break forth into a plant, and the plant into a tree, and a tree into flowers, and flowers into fruit. All that happens from within the individual. It's the gardener who can only thank God and praise him for a wonderful harvest after having done the preparatory work of planting. So that's expressivity. Let's talk of education. If we consider the etymology of education, we are in for a pleasant surprise. The online etymological dictionary states that the concept educate has two complementary meanings. The first comes from the mid-15th century Latin word educatus. Okay, I've used the Latin word. You could also use the Greek word, etc., but I'm not getting into that, which means educare, educare, care, bring up children, rear children, educate children. The educator brings up the educand and therefore guides, assists, nurtures, a very important word, accompanies, protects, anticipates. Let's take the second meaning. Concept educate also derives from another word, educere, not educare, but educere, meaning to bring out, to draw out, to lead forth. Ex means out, ducere is to lead. Remember that ducere resembles duke. The duke is a leader. Here you have something different. Here education is not about caring for youngsters, but bringing out what is best in them, seeking out their natural gifts, honing and refining their skills, enabling them to be leaders and becoming protagonists in their own growth towards culture and maturity. So you have nurture, and you have culture, and you have maturity or mature. The combination of bringing up and bringing out is the holistic education of Don Bosco, which we are calling preventive-expressive education. You'll be surprised, and I was surprised, that when I did this research, I checked the internet, and to my surprise, I found that someone had already used this word for Don Bosco before me. So I was not the first. Okay, guess who? On the 16th of February, 1930, the occasion of the commemoration of the beatification of Don Bosco, the presiding bishop preached the following sermon, and we're going to read that. But who was he? He was the Reverend Monsignor William Turner, Doctor of Divinity, Bishop of Buffalo, USA, noted for his erudite culture and great charity. Why are we saying this? He was professor of philosophy of the Catholic University of America, and the author of a book called The History of Philosophy. Now, when somebody takes up a huge job like writing the history of philosophy for university level students, you can understand the status of the person. And he published it in 1903. It was he who began also something excellent, the Catholic Charities of the United States, which continues to support the Church, the Vatican, and the Pope, etc. So in 1924, and a man not just of excellent intelligence, but of a great heart, a warm heart for charity. This is what he has to say. For Don Bosco, prayer was a means of expression. Song was a means of expression. The sacraments were not only sources of grace, but also a means of expression. So were recreations, hikes in the country, games, amateur theatricals, all these Don Bosco embodied in his system of education, sanctifying them, ennobling them, lifting them up by his religious inspiration. For Don Bosco, the positive was better than the negative, the constructive more useful than the destructive. In a word, expression is better than repression. In these terms, I present the educational system of the beatified, that time, Giovanni Bosco, as a system more updated than other systems that are called modern.